Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Everstage's Go to Master Show, Season 3. We converse with RevOps and GTM leaders from some of the most successful companies today and learn from their unique insights. Joining us today is Larry Penta, Senior Director, Revenue and Commissions at Snyk. Thank you for being here today, Larry. Could you please share a little bit about yourself to our listeners?
Sure thing. Super excited to be here and share some of my experiences with RevOps and finance. So thanks for the introduction. My name is Larry Penta. I'm Senior Director of Revenue and Commissions at Snyk, DevOps security platform. My role is in quote-to-cash finance. So I started with a background in corporate finance and evolved over time with a much more significant focus on revenue operations. So I work very close with the business. I've been in tech my entire career. So it's really the space where I'm most comfortable, and I understand both the finance side of things, the finance side of the business, as well as revenue operations and sales efficiency. So it's always a little bit of a balance, and especially in tech, it's incredibly important. Go-to-market execution is incredibly important. So I'm very, very excited to be here and share the experiences that I've had.
Absolutely. Go-to-market execution is super important in tech for sure. Larry, let's start with your journey. How did your background in finance shape your path into revenue operations? You also mentioned your role is unique since you lead both RevOps and financial reporting. How has the dual lens influenced your approach?
Yeah, so well, I don't think it's a kind of a zero-sum game, so to speak. Like, I think that you can be both a steward, a financial steward for the business, as well as build great incentive programs and a great RevOps program. So I don't think it's something you have to choose. But it does take a you have to be very deliberate about it, and it takes a lot of thought and care. For example, really, there's quite a bit of focus, I would say, for myself and others on driving growth, and especially in enterprise and the enterprise portion of the market. So I think that from my perspective, it's identifying really what you are looking to accomplish with sales plans, with your revenue operations, with your data, with your KPIs. What are the things you're trying to diagnose? What are the things you're trying to accomplish? There's a lot of different, even within the tech space and the SaaS space, there's a lot of different models. You have folks that are out there on pure consumption, or a combination of consumption and fixed. You have mid-market, SMB, MRR focused business, in really, or pure multi-year enterprise focus. And I think what you need to do is set expectations or set your goals in terms of what you're trying to achieve, and then work backwards from there. So and you can do that with still incorporating things like sales efficiency metrics and customer lifetime value and customer acquisition costs. You can still do that with and being a good steward for the business. So I guess what I would say is identify what you're trying to do, and identify what you're trying to accomplish. The things you're trying to diagnose. Are you trying to grow active users, or are you trying to really drive enterprise deals, enterprise logos, and then you build your sales incentive programs and revenue operations around those goals.
It sounds like both of your skills go hand in hand in driving business. You built and led world class code to cash teams through hypergrowth and pre IPO phases. What are some foundational practices or principles or must have ingredients for building a high performing Q2C function in fast scaling SaaS environments?
Yeah, so for me personally, I think the it starts at having really great commercial systems. That's everything from your CPQ tool, your quoting tools, your CRM, having great data governance policies, having having a great sales incentive program, clear and consistent sales incentive programs, and then really building a culture, I would say, of data governance and data ownership within those commercial systems. So, I've been fortunate at the companies that I've been with. We've really focused early on investment in commercial systems, and especially in revenue operations, and that allows you to scale. And if you don't make those investments early, then you're somewhat playing catch up. I think from my perspective, there's things that should be prioritized: CRM, ERP, sales incentive systems, and then there are also more ancillary tools like contract life cycle management tools and things like that you can also build off of those systems. And so I think it's a journey for sure, but invest early in that and build that culture at data governance, data ownership, and really have kind of a obsession, so to speak, with data accuracy, because that data is, you're going to be using it both to inform your performance. You're going to be using those KPIs and that data to influence both your decision making on go to market performance, and you're also going to be using it for a lot of times for financial reporting. So that's what you need to do to balance both.
You mentioned a bunch of must-haves for sure, and you've driven several complex system transformations, CPQ, CRM, ERP, CLM, across your roles. How do you approach balancing automation with flexibility, especially when scaling revenue operations without losing agility?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I don't know that anyone ever gets. It's certainly a balance, and it's certainly something that you need to find the right balance. And I don't know that everyone gets it 100% right all the time. It's a little bit more of an art than a science, but some of the things I discussed just a minute ago in terms of data governance, I mean, those things are just good things that make good business sense, right? So, restricting access to data, limiting the number of changes, having clear data ownership, things like that is critical. And that may require, it may require you to do some things that you could be concerned from time to time would potentially create some friction. But I don't with the go-to-market motion, and I don't think that needs to be the case, though. I think you can accomplish both. I think, particular in the companies where I've been, there's been a lot of focus on SOX controls, for example, because as I mentioned, I'm from a finance background. So, I think when you think about SOX controls, it's easy to think about the results, which is, okay, I need to be compliant with SOX 404, and I need to have all this level of documentation and all these things. And But the reality is that most of those controls are based on good good business sense, data completeness, data accuracy. Yes, there's a little bit more on the documentation side to be SOX compliant, for example, but they are based on fundamental good things that are appropriate to be part of your business, measurement of consumption, accuracy of consumption data, etc. So I think you can do both, and you can take it too far either way. You become too heavy in the documentation, too heavy in the restriction, but I think you need to find that right balance for your organization, and you need to get feedback from your stakeholders, especially the sales team, in terms of what what is disruptive and what is too many clicks in the quote to cash cycle for your salespeople to generate a quote or uh, to ultimately finalize a contract with the customer. So take that feedback, incorporate it, and find that balance between controls and the go to market motion.
That's a solid take, finding the right balance and, in fact, incorporating all feedback as well from the right teams. Uh, Sales incentives and compensation planning play a critical role in aligning GTM behavior with company goals. We spoke about getting feedback from sales teams. What's your approach to designing comp plans that are fair, effective, and financially sustainable?
Yeah. So I think this would be can be somewhat of a controversial question depending upon who you ask, but I think what I said earlier in terms of setting company-wide objectives, I think it applies here as well, right? It's what are the types of behaviors or what are the results that we're trying to accomplish, and I think you need to ask yourself the question: Are we trying to go after the enterprise market? Are we trying to drive customer adoption and activation, total activated users, etc.? It could be a combination of multiple things. Am I focused on enterprise, mid market, or SMB, or is it a business to business or business to consumer model? I think once you identify what those goals are, I think you have to build compensation plans around that. So if it's usage, you have to build sales incentive plans that incentivize around driving platform usage one way or the other, and not in a punitive way, not in a way of, we compensate up front for expected consumption and then we claw back if that doesn't happen. I think that's the wrong approach. And I think you can build design elements in your sales plans that meet each necessary goal. You don't want to build plans that are too complex or have too many variables or too many layers to them, because then it just gets confusing. But you can build incentives around new logos. You can build incentives around average deal size. You can build incentives around pipeline generation. You can identify those particular things, and it starts with who am I selling to? What types of behaviors am I trying to drive? And then working down from there. And then over time, you can't just set it and forget it, so to speak. Like it's got to be, you have to have a process for making sure that the behaviors are actually, the results that you're trying to drive towards are actually being realized. And there's ways to diagnose when they aren't. So, churn and retention KPIs are something that you want to measure very closely, and there could be reasons for that. There could be product reasons for around NRR or net retention issues, but that would be an indication in my mind that you'd want to go back to your sales incentive plans and say, am am I driving the right behaviors? Is it truly a product issue? Is it truly a support issue for the customer, or is there something being promised in the sales cycle that the customers are not realizing the full value or full potential of, and how do you make that a reality for them? Um, and how do you build sales incentive plans that incentivize that behavior? And it includes everyone, not just your AEs. It's across the board. It applies to your customer success org, especially. In fact, your full services org should be heavily involved in the process and should be on variable sales incentive plans as well. And really everyone should be aligned on those corporate goals that you set from the top.
And finally, AI. AI is changing the landscape across all functions, including RevOps. What are the most exciting opportunities you see for AI in revenue operations? There's a lot of sensitivity involved in commissions data or data in particular. Both today and 5 years from now, are there areas you've already experimenting with?
Yeah, so AI is really interesting because um, it's being used today quite heavily and I know right now agency is a big thing, right? So if you look at the CRM space, or if you look at sales incentive tools, really these concept of AI agency and helping AI navigate or get the most efficiency out of these systems is very much something that I think is being promoted. What I would like to see, and really where we use AI today, a lot of it is LLMs, so very much focused on chat and input. Really, what would be interesting, and where I would like, and where I've asked my teams to consider exploring AI is around the output side of it. So, really, if you think of sales incentives, it's what being able to reflect on your sales programs and understand if whether or not you are not just hitting KPIs, because that's just a data exercise, but is there a way to take that data and make assumptions around rep attainment? Is there a way to take that take that data and make assumptions around attrition? Is there a way to get more quantitative and qualitative information on the health of your sales organization? And I think I think it's a little bit of a tricky area because there's some level of human intervention needed there, and there's variables that may not be captured in all your systems that you need to consider, such as the competitiveness of your benefits, for example, and some of these other things. But really, what I'd love to see, and where I think I would get a tremendous amount of value out of AI, would be this concept of kind of taking that regression analysis, taking those correlations between all these data points, and telling a story and making a recommendation. Roll out a new incentive plan that does X, Y, Z. That would be really exciting. I mean, that would be something that I think would be kind of like a game changer for sales incentive and sales teams. So that that's where I'd like to see. I mean, we still get a ton of, what I would say is we still get a significant benefit from LLMs and a lot of the input AI right now. But I'd really like to see that go a step further, especially in sales incentives and go-to-market operations.
For sure, there is constant evolution and it's growing exponentially as well. We'll have to wait and watch how this is going to disrupt the entire system. Are there any specific resources, books, or podcasts you'd recommend for someone looking to scale their career in RevOps?
Yeah, so I actually, I landed in RevOps. I'd say I landed in RevOps by accident, so to speak. I started as I mentioned earlier, I started in accounting and in corporate finance, and actually started with just the month-end close process. And so I got into RevOps by accident. It started with reviewing some contracts for a big enterprise software company I was working for at the time, and then became somewhat of an expert myself on revenue accounting and revenue forecasting, and then it evolved from there. So I really would challenge, my recommendation. I don't know that I would particularly recommend any specific podcasts or books on revenue operations. I would more say that it's a bit about forcing yourself into those conversations at work, in your role, forcing yourself into conversations on sales operations and revenue operations. I think that's more critical. And the reason I say that is that every organization's unique. Every organization has unique set of goals and unique set of problems that they're trying to fix. And it's good to have a fundamental understanding of how to measure and try to fix those things, but it's even more important that you understand what they are in your particular business. And for me, it's always been identifying those things for in the business and trying to having some level of intellectual curiosity around trying to understand and fix those problems. So I actually I like books and podcasts on human behavior. So a few that might come to mind would be like Malcolm Gladwell books, or the Nudge, and books on decision making that really are broader than RevOps and just are interesting literature on human behavior. And then I think that human behavior ends up influencing so much in the sales cycle and so much in sales incentives and customer behavior, et cetera, that I think it's really some of those things are really the right way to go in terms of getting a fundamental understanding of how people buy and how people sell, and then from there, it's again understanding the particular challenges that your organization has, and focusing your programs, your RevOps or sales incentive programs around addressing those challenges.
Absolutely. There's no school or college to learn revenue operations, and it's all about what's needed for that business at that point of time, right? So, very well put across. And human behavior is the foundation for sure. What are the three key pieces of advice you would like to share with our listeners who aspire to excel in revenue operations?
Yeah, it's hard to I would say it's hard to boil it down into three, but I think we alluded to this earlier in the conversation, but it's being flexible and consistent. So it's developing consistent policies, but I mean, if you're focused on the enterprise space and enterprise customers, you have to be flexible. You have to assume they're going to want to use their paper, or they're going to have a unique set of problems that they're trying to solve with your product. And so you have to be flexible. You can't try to make assumptions. You can't you can't try to force them into your way of doing business. You have to be flexible. But that said, you want to be generally consistent. You don't want to do things. You don't want each individual situation or each individual deal to be its own snowflake, so to speak. And so I would say it's a little bit. It's a related thread to the conversation we had earlier around balancing finance and revenue operations and being flexible, but also being consistent and having some level of governance and controls within the revenue ops cycle. And then I would say, focus on revenue, focus on the definition of revenue and how you're defining revenue, and how your GAAP revenue is one thing, and it's people have spent a career just focused on GAAP revenue as a reporting, as a financial metric, and it ASC 606, so the standard that that got everyone in every industry on the same model, did a lot for consistency, but revenue is ultimately the highlight, the most important financial metric for a reason, and that's it represents your customers or potential customers, or the market's demand for your product. And so over time, there are things like, you can have a significant net new ARR, but you have to supplement those with measures like net retention, so that you understand, like, am I just bringing customers on, and then ultimately, due to product issues or due to support issues, then they're ultimately churning, or am I able to continue to drive usage and value through the platform? So GAAP revenue does that over time, but you have to supplement it with these other metrics and ARR, NRR. I know those don't include kind of one-time services and one-time consumption, but it's really important that you understand all of them and the dynamic between all of them, because ultimately, again, it's representative of the market's demand for your product and how much value the market sees in your product. So I would say that's the second thing, and then it's just focus on go-to-market execution in general and help support that. Even if you're in finance, you should be. Everyone should be thinking about driving pipeline, number of opportunities, deal size, win rate, improving any and all of those metrics across the organization, because especially in tech, especially in like a hyper growth tech situation, you are the success of your business is heavily reliant on your go-to-market execution and revenue operations. So it starts with the marketing funnel and pipeline and driving a good lead to opportunity ratio, driving pipeline value, quality of pipeline, and then also continuing to focus on driving value through the platform and increasing deal size, and as well as building a really good team, legal, finance, support teams to increase and pre-sales motions, your solution engineers, et cetera, everything to continue to improve your win rate. All of those things are really critical. And just because you're in finance or just because you're in legal doesn't mean you're a part of that, not a part of that. You are a part of that, whether you directly realize it or not. So those are the three things I would highlight. It's be flexible but consistent. Focus on revenue as a metric as the market's demand for your product, and making sure that you can diagnose issues as they arise, and then focusing on go-to-market execution and sales velocity, I would say, is the last thing.
Be flexible, be consistent, having the right metrics and driving them appropriately. Well, that brings us to the end of this insightful episode of Go to Masters. Big thanks to Larry for sharing his experiences and valuable insights. Remember, you can tune in every week to learn more from the game changers driving hypergrowth companies across the globe. Go to Masters is brought to you by Everstage, your trusted partner for transforming the way businesses handle sales commissions. I'm your host, signing off.